Hey, what's going on? This is Rob Kirkpatrick, and welcome into The Vault. I just got done recording an episode of Kirkpatrick and Company with Missy Rogers. She is one of the owners of Noble Plastics in Grand Coteau, Louisiana. Such a fascinating conversation about leadership, technology, innovation, and how it all works at the same time in her space up at Noble. So that one is to come. Make sure you subscribe so you will get an alert when that publishes. So I get a ton of questions from day to day, whether it's people on LinkedIn, maybe sometimes at conferences or meetings. And I just wanted to go through 5 today. And maybe this becomes a thing I start doing, answering questions, but these are 5 that I feel like I've constantly been getting. And for whatever reason, recently, maybe it's because we're getting into Q2, people are already starting to look at maybe numbers you're not hitting or maybe how you can get your message out. And so let's answer some of the questions. This one is for from LinkedIn. Are podcasts actually worth it for brands? She mentions her specific brand. So here's the deal about podcasts are more than just what you listen to in your car or what you see or what you watch here on YouTube. There is a ton of planning that goes into how you do it, how it's going to look, how it's going to sound, the guests you're going to have, the questions you're going to ask, how you're going to moderate content, how are you going to platform that content. So generally, I will say, yes, they're worth it for certain types of businesses. And these are businesses that have multiple subject matter experts. You know, I like to operate in seasons of 10. It's why anything you see us do at Kirkpatrick Brands, it's in a 10 episode season because, once you get about halfway through to episode 5 or 6, maybe you lose some momentum or maybe when you're working on it, you realize, wow, I could actually go to 20 episodes or 30 with what we've been doing. But if you commit to 10 of something, that's really the way to do it. But it is a ton of work. And most professionals are great at what they do, not being content creators. And that's really important because I think we're in a world right now where everyone is led to believe they could be a content creator because they have a Facebook page, maybe they have a small following. But when you're doing something like a podcast, it takes real work outside of the actual hour that you're recording. I would say, man, from booking to conceptualizing to writing to editing and everything else, I would say you're looking at maybe 4 to 5 hours, maybe 6 hours of total work that goes to every episode. So you multiply that by 10 and you're talking about a ton of time. So our podcast's worth it. A full podcast, often not worth it, but content that looks like a podcast is. Your stakeholders sitting in front of a microphone, answering questions like these, talking about why a business exists, that is great. And that's something we do for a lot of clients. All right, from an event, why does social media feel harder now than it used to? I think it only feels harder because there's more to compare what you're doing on social media to. Let me try to make that make sense. When Facebook first came out, and maybe you were an early adopter, you were posting things about your product and it was going viral by today's standards. Okay, well, there were fewer people who were using the social networks for that. It was primarily a personal connection. Maybe you got Facebook when you had to have a .edu email address. I was one of those people. But there was just less sponsored content, less advertising, less influencers and influencing going on. So it only seems hard, I think, because there is so much to compare it to. And also because these social platforms have figured out the algorithm, maybe not all of it is getting through. So something that you might have, used to get 100 clicks or likes or whatever your benchmark is, maybe you're only getting 10 now. And really the only answer for that is to post 10 times the amount of content and hopefully one of them sticks. But if you do sort of what we do at Kirkpatrick Brands and really try to narrow down what the exact audience is, then you don't really need that mass appeal. You don't need the viral moments. If you can find a potential client that needs what you sell, has a business issue that you can solve, you want to find those people. So the goal is really not to go viral. How often should my business post content? I am going to absolutely blow so many people out of the water on this. And it continues to prove to be true. Anyone who tells you this is the exact number that you need to post, I don't think that they probably know like the exact goals that you have for your business. So I just say you got to start somewhere. So when we talk about how often should a business post, you really need to just start by saying like, okay, if you're doing nothing right now, you need to at least schedule out 12 posts that post on the first of every month for the rest of the year or for the next year. That's something that's there. And then maybe think about what the next layer is some weekly content that you could post. That's why people have these, team member Tuesdays or throwback Thursdays, because it is a set thing on the calendar you can set content to so that you have weekly engagement. I would make the argument that once you do those things, well, now you start to look at a calendar for real. And you start to decide when your clients are looking, when you're wanting to sell. If you are, one of my favorite businesses generally are landscaping companies that do Christmas lights in the wintertime. And I love them just because it takes a lot of creativity to do that, to sort of change what you're doing. You're working for the same people, but you're not cutting as much grass, and you still need income. They still need services. And what else in the world do people want to do less than put up Christmas lights? They love to look at them, but they don't love to do them. So when you're that type of business, well, then you need to start to realize, like, when do we start talking about this? Do we start talking about it in October? Are we maybe one of those businesses that does pumpkins on doorsteps, and then that's sort of our funnel for business to get Christmas lights in the future? So all that being said, it's about consistency. It's not about numbers. Obviously, the more things you post, the more chances that an algorithm will catch you or the right person will like it. There are people who try to read the tea leaves on this every single year, and I just don't believe the tea leaves are there to be read. I think you need to see what works for you, try a bunch of different stuff, and if you go viral with something, then you need to try to replicate that either in the same topic, the same delivery, the same stakeholder. You just need to do it. Finally, what's more important today, branding or advertising? Look, they go hand in hand. I don't know how you have successful advertising without a strong brand. It is part of the reason that that's what I focus on, looking at what the message is, looking at what the logo looks like, looking at what the overall value proposition is for what you do before you can put it into TV and radio and social ads. You really need to know what you stand for. You really need to know the tone that you're going to use. We're in the middle of elections here in Louisiana, and so we are seeing just about every brand flavor of political ads. And I'll tell you, sometimes it doesn't match up. I can almost tell when someone who's not working for a candidate is who did a commercial, because the tone does not match with the candidate. So until we know exactly what your customer is, what you stand for, what the company wants to do, how the company wants to sell, I don't know how you advertise unless you're just throwing money into a cave. And hey, more power to you. If you have money to throw into a cave, then go ahead and start advertising before you know what you are. But a brand is your identity. It's the product you sell, and you need to do that before you advertise. Man, some good questions. We had a lot to say. Hey, keep them coming. As always, you can email questions, rob@kirkpatrickbrands.com, or submit them in the comments below. We'll start to do this more regularly because people want to see inside the vault, and I'm happy to answer your questions. I love talking about branding. It's my favorite. Make sure you also subscribe to Kirkpatrick and Company. It is a twice monthly interview series I do with people who are innovating in our community. We talk about investment in the community and also how important it is for Louisiana to be at the forefront of so much going on in the national, global economy. It's happening, guys. It is here. Thanks for watching. And again, if you have questions, you can submit them in the comments below. Have a good one.